Hi VC, Dale Gatefold 33 back with another video, and this is going to be the album art tag that Jack at the Vinyl Voyage put out a while ago now. Quite a few tags going around. I may do one other, this one, obviously my channel is called Gatefold 33, so clearly artwork is something that is also important to me as well as the music. So Jack has 12 prompts, questions for us, so let's get on with it and try and get through them in good time. So the first one was the coolest cover, so I've gone with this one. This is Bobby Bland and The Dreamer, so early 70s, 74 album, and there's Bobby in his 1970s orange suit with the wide collared shirt, orange. I like orange, so that's cool to me. So there's the cool cover. The next one was kind of, was it trippy, weird, controversial? I've gone fairly route one on this and just gone trippy. So there is the Dukes of Stratosphere and their mini album, is it? EP, 25 o'clock. Wonderful trippiness front and back there. Question 3, sexiest. I've not gone route one on this, I can tell you. So I gave this some thought and went backwards and forwards, and then I was listening to a podcast, and I went, oh yes. So I've gone for the sexiest, if that is even possible, the sexiest man-made icon, and there are a number of contenders for this, but I've gone for the Spitfire, a bit grim. So forget putting aside the war as a piece of machinery, a beautiful, sexy piece of machinery. I think the Spitfire. I mean, the E-Type Jaguar runs it close, but the Spitfire is it for me. When I was a child, we lived near an airfield. And it had a Spitfire and a Lancaster bomber there, and so they'd fly over. So not just the look, but also the sound of a Spitfire is sexy. Okay, an album I dislike. So I've picked one here, and there'll be another one later. This goes back to, and I've shown these before, the handful of albums that my parents had in a very small collection that I listened to when I was a young child. I'm talking at 8 or 9 or 10. And obviously there was only a handful of albums that I could play. So I played them over and over again, and therefore I stared at the artwork over and over again. And this album, this just has always bugged me. I know it was probably amusing, highly amusing at the time for Paul Simon to stand in front of Art Garfunkel or whatever and obscure, but it's always annoyed me that one is obscuring the other for years. A creature, and a cover with a creature on the front, so there you go. There is a shark on Sven Libaek's Inner Space album, a kind of TV soundtrack album about underwater exploration by Ron and Val Taylor. Backstory. I struggled on this, and I've got the feeblest of all backstories, I think. So I'm going to go with this album, Lee Hazelwood's 13 album, which was never really an album originally. So this was an album that yeah, because obviously the story I've got is more around the album than the album art, but there is a little bit of album art. So yeah, this album 13 was originally an album that was, I think, done in 1970 for a soul singer called Larry Marks. It never got released, or if it got released, it bombed. And Lee Hazlewood was struggling for new songs, and so he re-recorded that album himself and put it out as 13 himself a few years later. And the cover picture was taken by the photographer who also took the picture for his Cowboy in Sweden album, and I think he wasn't going to use it, but Lee Hazlewood wanted to use this picture because he regards it as his favourite picture, because he thinks the dartboard looks like he's got a halo around his head and the chair makes him look like he's got angel wings. So he's always loved that picture, so he wanted to use it on the artwork. There's a bit of a feeble backstory there. A die cut. Okay, I'm going to show you this one, which I had to keep separate, not even in the pile. So this is the debut album by Goat, the Swedish kind of psych rock band called World Music. It has a die cut, as you can see, but it is the most, because it's got the pieces of paper for the W for the world and the M for the music, that getting it in and out of an outer sleeve is, you're at risk of bending any one of those at any time. So in fact, I'll put it there so that I don't drop something on it and forget it's in the pile. Bought for the artwork. So I'm sure there are many albums I've bought for the artwork, but I couldn't actually remember them. But what I do know, certainly a genre that I often buy for the artwork is classical music, because I know so little about classical music. So if I am at a car boot sale and I'm just someone's got a box of records, and I say, "Oh, you got the records?" and they say, "Yeah, they're all classical." I kind of like, "Oh, well, I know nothing," but I'll go through, sort of flick through them with no clue as to whether one recording is better than another recording, or even what one piece of music is compared to another piece of music, because I know so little about classical music. So sometimes, obviously, I know to look for the the early Decca stereo presses and things like that, because they're worth money, and I'll do that. But if I'm going to buy something, it's often because I just quite like the artwork and I take a punt on it. Battered or Destroyed album. So this Gene Vincent and his Blue Caps Blue Jean Bop. I got this in a bag of records. The cover was destroyed, completely destroyed. So the record though was okay. So what I've done is, rather than keep it as just this shredded mess, I managed, and I don't normally do this, I cut out as much that was still kind of a cover from it and glued it to this stiffener here, just to, rather than have this crumbling mess in an outer sleeve with the record. So yeah, that's all that was salvageable of it. So I've just stuck it there so that I've got something, so that I know what the record is when I'm getting it off the shelf. In a gatefold, again, gatefold 33. I should know about gatefolds. I'm not sure this. I'm sorry. I'm just showing good examples of, rather than, none of these are my favourites, I will say, of anything really. And a good in a gatefold, I think mainly because how much it contrasts with the outer sleeve, is Earth and Fire's Song of the Marching Children. So Prog, is it Dutch Prog, I think it is. So yeah, so the outer sleeve is pretty bland, and then the inner sleeve, inner gatefold, is very trippy, lavish, colourful artwork. So I've gone for that just because of the contrast between the two. Your favourite? I always struggle with any question that has favourite in it. So yeah, my favourite cover, but I'll go back to what I used earlier. The 5 records that I played over and over and over again as a child, and therefore you stare at the cover. So I've stared at this cover more than any other. I've stared at this as I've been playing the double album, either reading the lyrics or looking at the cartoons, and in my mind imagining the songs for Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So that is not my favourite cover, but certainly a cover that I've probably stared at the most in my life. And a cover that you would live in. So I haven't gone for a fantasy sort of picture. I've gone fairly conventional and sort of realistic, if you like, on this. So actually, the house I live in now is probably my forever house. They'll be carrying me out in a box. I certainly don't want to move these records anywhere else. But if I won the lottery, would I live here? If I won millions on the lottery, I would probably want to live somewhere else. But there would be a choice. I'd either want to have a house in the English countryside, and the rolling hills of the English countryside, have that on my doorstep, would be one consideration. Or I'd want a house by the sea and have the sound of the sea and all that goes with it, and be able to walk onto the beach from my house, would be another one. Or I'd want a London city penthouse by the Thames. So should I win the lottery, which I guess I need to do the lottery to win the lottery, but should I win the lottery, they may be covers that I would live in, or sort of things I would live in. I haven't. I'm not artistic at all, so I haven't done a cover. I've glued that other one, so that counts. But thanks, Jack, for the prompts. Cheers, VC. Bye.